March 24th, March 24th, 2014. I'd like to state that there was an executive session 2 weeks ago regarding litigation and personnel matters. No action was taken. And we had an executive session preceding this meeting. In this case, it was personnel matters and collective bargaining agreement discussions. No action was taken. Flag salute, Mr. Phillips.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Amendola.
Here.
Ms. Amendola. Here. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Pope. Here. Ms. Michael. Here. Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
Mr. Ayu.
Here.
Mayor Minsterman.
Here.
Leader Council, Ms. Meredith. Here. And Manager Callen is absent, and Director Beachy is absent.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the bill list dated March 24th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill list? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Pope.
Yes.
Ms. Weitzel. Yes. Mr. Hayes.
Yes. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes, March 10th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Pope.
Yes.
Ms. Weitzel. Yes. Mr. Hayes.
Yes. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to citizen comments. It looks like we have 7 people signed up. Looks like Clearview, Shade Tree. So if you have a spokesperson to talk about the shade trees, I'd ask you to have your spokesperson speak to that. If each person wants to speak to it, you'll have 3 minutes. And when you come up to the microphone, please state your name and where you live and have what you have to say. First one is Nancy Corbel, unless there's a spokesperson.
I am not the spokesperson. I think we can all speak for ourselves. It's only 3 minutes.
Name and address, please.
All right, I'm Nancy Corwell. I live at 613 Clearview. I'm speaking on behalf of the trees that are in front of 401 Clearview. I just wanted to ensure, I'm not sure what the plan is with Gateway. I wanted to ensure that those trees can be preserved. They're an integral part of the neighborhood. The engineers have done a good job, and I know that they've tried to be very discerning and careful in terms of keeping up the trees in that area as best as possible, but those trees have particular historic value. They really anchor the street, and that house is very important, I think, to the house on the street, and it's important that the neighborhood be kept intact and that we be kept abreast of any plans otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Lander?
Good evening all. Frank Lehner, 613 Clearview Avenue, and I'd like to speak on behalf of the trees and ask that we find a way to keep those trees on Clearview. And I'm sure Gateway and Mr. Minsterman, they do a great job, and they've done a great job with the rest of Clearview, other than it becoming a speedway. But that when you do your assessment, that you have you taken into account the value of the trees, what they bring to the community, the wildlife that lives there, the structural value they bring to the hill, and not just that the trees will prevent it from being a square right-angle thing, job to do and make it easier, because without those trees, the community's not quite the same. and we lose the mold that lives in the wall, and we lose the moss that's on the street, which may not be of value, or it may not be seen from the particular perspective of efficiency, cost, benefit analysis. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Mary Luxbach.
Mary Lechbacher, 71 Dinsmore. I also just wanted to show my support for the trees on Dinsmore in representing the tree commission. Not on Dinsmore, on Fairview. Sorry.
Thanks, Mary. Next up, Corinne Essay.
I'll defer to Philip.
Would be, good evening, my name is Philip Lavasser at 401 Clearview Avenue. Just wanted to recap on our last discussion. I just want to make sure that through the dialogue that is carried out tonight and future dialogues concerning the reconstruction of Phase 3, that we understand that we're not forced into a false dilemma, that there are many palatable solutions, engineering solutions that Gateway Engineer could consider. Moreover, we have the grant from the DEP that states that if we need more time, we can ask for a 1-year extension on this project for the funds. So we're not forced against a wall, a hard deadline. If we need 1 more year, we can ask our engineer to apply for that through PADEP. If whatever solution requires a traffic study or further discussion, we do have some options that we can work with Gateway on this subject matter. There are technical solutions that need to be reviewed, and I would encourage a cost-benefit analysis for the different construction techniques to be evaluated if they have not already been. As I understand, Borough Manager Callen and Council and Shade Tree Commission have been have had discussions in the past week to discuss, and my wife and I, Jacqueline, and my engineer are looking forward to hearing what that resolution may be. And as always, our home is open to the community, and we look forward to future discussions if it requires our attention. Thank you.
Thank you for the new information.
Good, thank you.
I asked for Corinne, is she here? Do you want to speak?
I haven't been updated, I guess, from last.
We were gonna wait until the end of the discussion, because we haven't heard any further
News.
updates from Borough Manager Callen or Gateway Engineers on the subject matter. So
Is that, so is it also true then Robin, Anthony, and, what's the last name? Jacqueline? You're gonna wait as well to the end?
Yes.
yeah, and we also we'd also like, as a group, would like Gateway Engineer, Borough Engineer representative stay throughout the public comment at the end, so they can, so if there is a any kind of dialogue or comment that we wish him to hear, that he be available for that, because at our last meeting, the engineer was excused, and there was some new information shared with the community at that time we were not aware of, and so it sort of changed the public discourse dynamic greatly. So, thank you.
Well, after the engineer's report, I'll ask if he has the time to stay. And if he
Okay.
does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the last of the citizens' comments then, until the end of the meeting. So we'll move on to receipt of the written reports. I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report, the financial report, Act 511 and trash collection report, property tax collection report, police report, ordinance officer's report, REMS report, CVFD, and the engineer's report. Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on these written reports? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola?
Yes.
Ms. Amendola?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Poe?
Yes.
Ms. Weitzel? Yes. Mr. Hayes?
Yes. Motion carries. Now let's move on to the mayor's report. Do you have anything to report today?
I have about 3 items I'd like to bring up, and the borough manager store, Ms. Beachy's not here. My question was going to be, where are we with the McCormick Street crosswalk, I know there's been discussion as to the paint and all that stuff, and I'm just wondering if we're ready to go on the first night stay, because there's some coordination that's gonna have to be brought into that, or closing Steuben Street down for a short period while they paint that. So I can't get those answers. In fact, I texted Jamie earlier to tell her that I was gonna ask this question tonight, but I was not aware that she was out of town and wasn't gonna be here, so. Item number 2, anybody's come up Steuben Street as of late, at CVS, along the curb line where we have 2 lanes of travel, right lane to turn up West Crafton Avenue / Churchill. That is potholes in that area about, evidently it was trenched, because it seems like it's an even line that goes from just across from CVS all the way up to the corner, that it's in very deplorable condition to having to cars moving up, and that was my second question.
She did have them come out last month, and they did come out and they filled it, and it was drivable. But now she's calling back out.
It's as bad as.
The PennDOT has some responsibility for that, so they have to be contacted
Maybe,
again.
maybe on a phone call to PennDOT, somebody could give them a call.
There was, I know she did say, the day they did come out, I guess the weather wasn't, all that agreeable, and there was some fear that it would come right out. It seems like maybe it has, so we'll get in touch with them.
Before we push ourselves into an accident. And my third item is, I would just like to make a comment real quick on the Clearview Avenue at Harris Street, the trees. I've gone up there twice since the last council meeting, and I was up there again this afternoon. And I don't know if anybody's taken a look up there. I wanted to see what the condition of the trees were myself. I'm not an arborist or even best to be, but I wanted to see what my eyes would see to observe this. And I find just from looking at these trees that they look great. They're healthy, they need to get some curb work where the curbs have washed away or broke away because of the root system. And this bump out that was referred to in the last council meeting, to me, does not seem like it should be the stopper and have to have these trees cut back. I think these trees should stay right where they are, because they do. There's 6 trees on Clearview Avenue and the 3 that are on Harris Street. And in my opinion, I think council should make every effort to afford the citizens their opportunity to keep these trees where they are. I don't think that they're a detriment at all, like they're gonna fall into the street or anything. They're all standing straight. Where some sycamore trees, you'll see that they'll start bending over here. These ones are pretty vertical to the ground. So just my comment on the tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll move on to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple items. One is a reminder that for the CCTV Shaycog multi-municipal contract that Crafton was asked to send a concurrence letter to Shaycog concurring with the award of the bid to the contractor, the apparent low bidder. So just a reminder that could be sent. So I'm not sure if that has been, but
That's on the agenda.
great, thank you. Then to get to the main topic, then is just a quick recap. What I did last time after the meeting was I went back and viewed the video of the meeting to hear the residents' comments afterward. I had sent a letter responding. I thought there was some misinformation that with those comments, responded to the council about that. I was instructed by council to take a look at what some options were to save the trees, that was a priority of council, to have that evaluated and look to see what could be done. So tonight, I brought some renderings of 2 examples of what could be done. What we did was proceeded, as council requested, with add alternates to the contract. So the existing design is in place as the base bid. There is one add alternate to install what we've been referring to as the bump out. And that would be that first sheet that you see. You see Harris on the left-hand side and Willard on the right. You see the 4 trees in front of the subject residence. And to the right, right above the word Clearview, you see a dark green hatched area. It turns out that because of the width of the road that's required, It would be a 12-foot wide road if that section were made to be one-way. The bump out would be 7 feet from the existing curb line. And then you see there the dark green. If you flip to the next page, then you'll see a blow-up of what that dark green area would be. Now, this is downstream from the existing trees because this area, which is a bioswale and a rain garden, would have curb cuts where the water would flow into the bump out area and pass through a bioswale and into the rain garden in that 7-foot wide space. Now, in front of the trees themselves, there would be no disturbance. It just would be grass or mulch, whatever you chose, because this type of a green effect takes excavation, and we know that excavation is going to harm the trees. So this is the first ad alternate. This is what you'd have. On the very last sheet, there's some examples of some bushes and shrubs that would be planted in that rain garden, in that bioswale area. These are very low maintenance type shrubs and bushes. This area would be mulched, so you wouldn't have to cut grass. But it would serve as to add to the green nature of the design by treating the stormwater coming off the street, as well as the aesthetics of the overall area by leaving the trees in place. So, but that would require a one-way designation between Harris and Willard. So obviously understanding that this would be what the closest we could come to what the arborist had agreed to do, or what he had recommended to do. He recommended that 3 times the diameter of the trees would be the distance we'd have to stay away from the trees in order to ensure that the roots were not disturbed. That would be 9 feet. So with a 7-foot bump out, we're really only 8 feet from that 9 feet. We're a foot away from what he had recommended, that there be no excavation. So anyway, this was one option. Like I said, making a one-way just in that short section. I know there was some initial consideration about the fire trucks going up and around Willard and coming back down Hayes. I'm not a traffic engineer, but it seems to me that fire trucks have the ability to circumvent certain traffic guidance signs during an emergency situation, and then might be able to pass through that one way if it were safe. So you could clearly have a visible line of sight that a fire truck could actually go up the one-way street. Like I said, I don't know if that's the motor code, but certainly that would probably be a practical approach to what a fire truck would do in lieu of going around that area. So anyway, the second option is to move the curb, to shorten. We talked about a minimum width of a roadway being 18 feet. Right now we have 19 feet. So we'd be able to move the curb line in 1 foot, which would be away from the trees. If you see that third cross section, that third sheet shows the tree. Just to the right of the tree shows a concrete curb, and then it shows an 18-foot wide road, and to the right of the drawing shows the other curb. So that's a cross section of the road and how the tree could be left in place with 1 foot away from the tree, the curb being installed. Now, that alone wouldn't really save the trees. The curb's going to go down 20 inches, so we've talked about a 24-inch excavation zone. So what we did, normally the road is crowned where the middle is the high point of the road. So we super elevated the left side of the road. On the tree side, we were able to raise the curb 6 inches. So the curb would be 6 inches higher than the existing curb that's there now. So all that would just get buried in mulch or soil, just as backfill. So it would go from the top of the new curb, which is 6 inches higher than the existing curb, down to the sidewalk. Now that raises us 6 feet out of the ground. So, I'm sorry, 6 inches out of the ground. So we have that additional depth. We have the existing brick depth. So what that leads to, if you look at the very bottom of the drawing, you see that light gray area. That would take the excavation for the roadway at about 6 inches beneath the existing brick. So 4 to 6 inches is all we would really need to excavate beneath the existing brick in order to implement this section. One thing we did was we eliminated the curb drain. There was a drain beneath this section. It was only 100 feet long. We were able to just eliminate that. That doesn't appear to be any kind of a problem. Also, the curb doesn't go full depth. You see that the curb is going to be mounted on top of the road. So normally curbs go below the pavement section, like we said, 18 to 20 inches. This curb will actually be mounted on top of the asphalt pavement. So it'll be a 6-inch curb like what's there now, but it'll be mounted instead of full depth. So I think these are minor concessions. I was worried originally about providing a substandard design, a substandard section that you might have to sacrifice in order to save the trees. I think that what we have, the accommodations we've made, the changes we've made are minor, and I don't think they allow for a lesser quality section. And remembering that this is only 100 feet of length in the front of these trees, the rest of the design would stay the same. So this is a second ad alternate that would be bid on in the contract. So essentially what we have, if we were able to advertise the contract beginning of next week, I think your next meeting is April 28th. We could have the bids open by April 23rd, have it summarized and to council to consider the existing design with no changes, the existing design with a 7-foot bump out and a one-way designation between those two streets, or the existing design and a 1-foot bump out with the revised cross-section, the super elevated section of roadway that would allow for a minimal excavation. Now between then and now, to me the main question is asking the arborist if excavating 4 to 6 inches is going to be a problem, only 1 foot away from those trees. So that I can't answer. I think I provided the best engineering solution, not knowing whether or not the arborist would agree that a 6-inch excavation at those roots would damage them or not. So we'll have to find that out. But I see those as the obvious options. This is ready to go. If council gives us authorization to proceed with this bid tonight, you can have your answer as early as the 28th of April. And we also, including a requirement in the contract that the contractor hold over his bid prices in case you can't make a decision at that 28th meeting, that we'd get an extra month to decide, and the contractor would have to hold his bid prices so that we wouldn't lose the economies of scale that we got by bidding early.
Well, one question. So you said that the road design would just be, the new road design for the third option would be just between Harris and Willard. So when would it transition back to the hump in the middle and side to side?
It would transition at the intersection of Harris. So really, at the intersection of Harris, there's no crown anyway, because of the intersection coming down, it sort of flattens out. So it would start the transition at that corner. If you're looking at the first sketch, it would move to the right until it got to the trees, the end of the trees, and then it would start back transitioning, because at that point, we wouldn't have a bump out for the 7-foot bump out. We would just have the cross section that would change. So it would be super elevated in front of the trees, and then between the trees down to Willard, it would transition back to a crowned elevation, like a normal street design. So there's plenty of room to transition. You wouldn't see a bump. You would hardly feel it in your car. You probably wouldn't even notice it when you're driving. These are just 2% grade changes.
Okay.
I have another question regarding the curbs. You said that curb would be 6 inches elevated on the one option here.
Yes.
How do you blend that with the other phases?
If you look, it's just basically going to be putting topsoil or mulch. If there's grass, it would be topsoil from the top of that curb down to the edge of the sidewalk. It's just going to be backfilled, basically, in a triangle wedge.
If it rained heavy, it wouldn't wash out.
Once the grass was established, I think it'd be fine. And part of that curb would be left in place. We'd remove what curb we could without disturbing the trees. The curb that's actually embedded into the trees, it probably would be just cut on both ends and left in place and buried, just so as not to disturb the trees.
Would it act like a foundation level then for the additional curb?
No, it would just be right next to it. They're only gonna be a foot apart, actually 6 inches from the back side to the front side, because the curb's that wide. So there's only gonna be a few inches in between the existing and the old curb.
But you'd likely not even see the old curb.
You won't see it.
You won't be very.
Yeah, this curb's 6 inches higher, so it's gonna cover it, and it's just gonna drop down. We figured that transition between the sidewalk and the curb, granted, it'll look a little awkward in between the trees, but we figured that was worth that. You still have a sidewalk to walk on, but it seemed to be worth the saving of the trees by having that small slope in that grass area between the curb and the sidewalk.
Other questions for the engineer? No? Are you able to stay?
I can stay if you'd like to. I don't know that it would be fruitful to have a debate back and forth with the public at this point. Certainly like to listen to the comments, whatever they had, like I did last time, consider them. At this point, I think these are acceptable options if council believes. We can still bid the project and then make the decisions on these options once the bids come in.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the manager's report. It was stated, I think, earlier that Manager Callen is not here tonight. He's representing us at Roslyn Borough.
Yeah, he's at Roslyn Farms.
Roslyn Farms.
Getting their buy-in, we're not providing a comprehensive plan.
Yep, there's something I'll get to on his manager's report. We'll talk to that when I get to that. All right, so I'll read through this. I did meet with him today, so I'll try best to answer any questions that come up as part of this manager's report. And anything I can't answer, we'll just table until we can actually check with the manager. So the telecommunications service, the phone analysis for the hookup and further arrangements with changing over is in process. It's been communicated to me that it's all going very smoothly. The cleaning service, the new service provider, Aragon, began 2 weeks ago, also going well. 2014, the social media service, the contract with Blackboard has been executed, and it's on our agenda item tonight to develop a policy, or action agenda, I'm sorry, to develop a policy. Vacation Blight Property Committee. So on 3/24/14, the business agenda, professional disciplines identified and residents agreed to serve as of 2/10/14. Need one council person appointed as liaison between the committee and council. There's several action items or several motions that have come up tonight on our business agenda. We'll discuss this in depth then. The 2014 infrastructure projects, Clearview Phase 3, positioned for receiving bids in April and a May 2014 start. Gateway Engineers has developed alternatives, as Mr. Misterman has explained to us. Request the property owner of 401 Clearview sign off from his retained arborist to assure the health of the trees following construction and alternative methods. So we'd ask that the arborist that you have speak to those options and what makes sense. Mercantile and business privilege tax analysis. Mr. Schuster cannot be here tonight, but it's on the business agenda to move forward with the contract. We'll talk about that at that agenda, at that motion. Animal Control Service, the police chief and the manager met with Kim Secrete of Animal Control Services based out of Houston, PA. Service was agreed to provide this it's agreed to provide this service for 1 year effective 4/1/14 at a cost of $300 a month plus weekend pickup at $35 call out if needed. So if there's any call outs during business hours or during the, not business hours, during the week, that's covered as part of the $300 a month, doesn't matter how many there are. If there is a weekend call out, it's a $35 per call out. The manager feels strongly, as well as the chief, that we need this service in place. So it's recommended that we move forward with that. That's, I believe, on the agenda as well. Valley Street. This is something that has come up recently. There's a street that's shared between Crafton and Ingram boroughs. Ingram is looking to pave several alleys, has approached Crafton regarding the feasibility of partnering to share the cost to pave Valley Street. Valley Street is right on the border of Crafton and Ingram, and the line is actually drawn, I believe, right down the middle of the street, so there's a shared cost here. Ingram has actually gone out and done a lot of the work already today to figure out what the cost would be and the specs. Probable costs ranged from $50,000 to $28,000, $50,000 on the high end, $28,000 on the low end. Ingram is asking Crafton to share half of that cost, since half the street is ours, much like Chartier's split between Crafton and Pittsburgh. Crafton cost would be obviously half of that, so 25 to 14, depending upon the agreed upon alternative. If agreed, Ingram's contractor would pay Valley and Crafton would reimburse Ingram for the cost. So Ingram would shoulder the initial pay and we would just reimburse them. Since this was presented to the manager late last week, there should be a discussion, engage the will of council,